it's an honest world, it's not a fake world. And I think sometimes in the city we get wrapped up in false hoods around us instead of being real. If you are spiritual, if you are religious, we are actually in God's house here. We are actually in it and we live it and we breathe it. Whereas in the city, you have to go to God's house to get the feeling that I get every day.
The Kimberley, in Western Australia's far north, is everything you'd imagine the outback to be. It's remote, hot, beautiful and unforgiving. What's it actually like to live here? My name's Tom Edwards and I've hit the road in search of answers. I'm going to be meeting some of the people who run cattle stations so large that they dwarf English counties. And as a bit of a drifter, I want to understand what it is that makes the Kimberley a sunburnt home. First port of call was Margaret River Station, about 450 kilometres west of Kununurra. It's part of the Yugawalla Pastoral Company, run by husband and wife team Hayden and Jane Sale, who moved to the Kimberley nearly 10 years ago.
We were looking for opportunities in the cattle industry, in the cattle station job particularly. So we were in the Northern Territory and had a farm there growing hay and had cattle of our own on adjustment, and we wanted to move into the cattle station business, and we found a place over here that was quite cheap because there was nothing on it. It was just a bare block, so that's how we ended up moving over here.
And what's it like to live and work in such an isolated place like the Kimberley?
Yugawalla, the first property we bought with a couple of partners from the city, and had nothing on it at all. We had to literally cart our own old mining donga out there, put it up next to a water bore that was there from the mining days, and then get stuck in. So yeah, it was a pretty wild experience there for the first few years.
What was motivating you so much?
Oh look, we always saw the opportunity in the north, I think. So we moved north with an eye to always get into ag up here, because one, it's very reliable rainfall wise, and two, the Asian markets are great growing markets, and we thought we'd like to play a part of that. So we were yeah, I think we probably bit off a bit more than we could chew to start with, but we've been chewing pretty hard ever since and seeing how we go. What
was the hardest thing about getting to where you are now?
Oh, look, there's been a couple of really big challenges. The Indonesian stoppage of the live export was huge. You know, we basically went from a business that was sort of making its way to not being able to sell our product overnight, and that was, yeah, we went through some pretty tough years there. You know, we couldn't afford to employ too many staff. So yeah, it was pretty stressful for years for sure.
What was the hardest thing about it?
Not knowing whether we'd survive. You know, we'd put a lot of work in, a lot of effort in, put our entire life savings into it by that point, and we just really didn't know whether we'd come out the other end. You know, if we hadn't, we reckon we might have been able to survive a year, maybe a little bit more, and if things didn't get better by then, we were gone. So yeah, it was pretty stressful.
So what keeps you here?
Oh, we love the life, you know, and the industry's picked up a hell of a lot since then. So it's, you know, apart from that, the Kimberley's been very good to us.
You're a family man. How would you describe your life here in the Kimberley?
Oh, look, we've got a great life with our kids. They do school of the air. We have a governess. We're lucky enough to be able to have a governess, and she schools them during the day, but we get heaps of time with them on the weekends and after school and before school. And kids are old enough now that they're able to come out with me in the ute or fly around in the plane or whatever. You know, so they have a great life.
What do you love so much about the Kimberley?
I love how spectacular it is. I love the fact that it rains. You know, if you're in the ag business, you don't go very well unless it rains, and it is actually a very reliable area. So it lets you plan, lets you grow, lets you make business decisions around that. And on top of that, it's a pretty spectacular place to live as well.
My conversation with Hayden was a good start. For him, not only was the Kimberley a great place to run a business, it was also an ideal environment for raising a family. But I could also see that I had a long way to go to get to the bottom of what life is really like here.
Shake the leg, here we go! Oh, that hair stood up on the back of my neck as you reflected the early morning lights. And been so long since I was blown away like that, I couldn't let it get away without a fight. But you could bury me deep beneath the soul of this land, beneath that black soil floodplain, and spirit me away to never see another day. You wouldn't hear me complain. Just on the way to the station, like a wild dog finding his way home.
200 kilometres further west was Go-Go Station near the town of Fitzroy Crossing. I come to meet Philip Hams, who'd lived on the property for the past 10 years. As an older person, I wondered whether station life was possibly too solitary.
I think it's any different than anywhere else. That in this day and age, with communications the way they are, I don't think it matters too much where you are. I've got family scattered, some in Australia, some overseas, and I'd probably keep in contact with those people, those kids of mine and grandkids and all that. I don't see any disadvantage.
Do you feel isolated? Do you get lonely at all?
No.
Can you see yourself ever living anywhere else?
No, I don't. I think that transport being the way it is, that I can be in Darwin, I can be in Adelaide, I can be in Sydney within hours. No, I don't think there's any disadvantage at all, really.
What's your favourite thing about the Kimberley?
Is I think that Kimberley can have a really bright future. It's just got to make up its mind to do it. That's what's going to happen. I think it's working its way around to that.
What's the single most difficult thing about living in the Kimberley?
I think that we miss that can-do. Or I miss that can-do philosophy. I think that's lacking up here, but it's coming.
And what makes the Kimberley unique?
It's an area where it's yet to happen.
Philip was clearly very knowledgeable and passionate about the Kimberley, but he hadn't revealed much about his life here. Still, I felt like I was making progress, albeit slowly, and tomorrow was another day. The next morning I got up early and hit the road after sunrise. After a good night's sleep, I was looking forward to visiting the next cattle station. I was on my way to Leopold Downs, about an hour from Go-Go, on the rough Windjana Gorge Road. I was going to meet Steve Hagan, who lived alone at the station, having moved there from the Northern Territory about 3 years ago.
It's a pretty good part of the world. It's pretty quiet this time of year, so you've got to be reasonably resilient and be able to listen to yourself and get a bit nervous if you start answering your own questions.
What are some of the things that you come up against living out here?
Oh, but it could be anything. Like, it just changes from day to day. That's probably the best part about it. Is, you've got all your plans ready for one day, and then something will happen, and you're doing something totally different. That's the big thing. It just anything can happen, and there's always different challenges, and you just got to deal with it.
Is that what you sort of like most then, not knowing what's ahead every day?
Yeah, like it's, you know, challenges are good, but you know, it's the lifestyle, like it's quiet, there's no traffic lights, no queues, that's a big thing.
And what kind of things do you get up to when you're not working?
I don't really sort of get away that much. I went to you might go into Broome for a couple of days or anything, but I haven't sort of spent too much time at any of the rodeos or anything, because normally everyone goes away and I sort of stay home to keep an eye on it here anyway, so I sort of haven't been to too many places out here, so I'm just sort of, just kicking around here mostly.
Would you say that you enjoy your own company and privacy?
Pretty much got it. If I never had, I've got a couple of dogs and there's a few potty calves, or I didn't have them, I'd be totally mad, or madder than what I am anyway.
How do you go with the isolation?
Oh, it's fine. It's not so bad here. There's a school down the road, you know, the people that run it, you see them a bit, and so it's not as if you don't see anyone for weeks and weeks on end or anything like that.
What sort of person survives best out here?
I would say you'd have to be resilient, able to handle the heat, and just be able to change plans quickly, I would think, because that happens fairly regularly.
How would you sum up the Kimberley?
It's a pretty great place. You know, it's totally different from anywhere that I've worked, and met a lot of great people, and it's it's a different way of life in the way of the cattle you deal with, and you know the terrain is the main one. You know, like getting around the terrain, and you know my speed limit I reckon my speed limit's dropped by about 90 k's an hour compared to where I was to here. You know, you just got to creep around, and just because of the terrain. Yeah.
What do you think the Kimberley does to people who choose to live here long term? Everyone's very, they're all, very dedicated to their cause. They're very passionate about the area, and rightly so. There's a lot of potential. I had to admire Steve, living alone out in the sticks. He didn't think it was all that isolated, but having grown up in an English town, I wasn't convinced. And while I could appreciate the Kimberley's rugged beauty, I wasn't sure station life would be for me.
Well, if you go north for the summer, well, I can tell you better take care. Oh, that heat can kill you and the bugs will sting you. There'll be sweat pouring from everywhere. Oh, if you go north for the summer, to a land that's sacred and old, the thunder be rolling, the lightning be crashing right into your soul. And have you seen those storms rolling down?
Back on the bitumen, I headed east and snaked my way through the landscape. 500 kilometres from Kununurra, I reached Larrowa Station, the final stop on my journey. It's owned by Wendy and Kevin Brockhurst, who started from scratch and raised 4 kids here. Wendy was born in Yorkshire, but in her 20s she came to Australia and never looked back. If anyone could shed some light on what makes the bush home, it was her.
When I came to the Kimberley, I don't know if the dust sort of got into my heart a little bit or what happened, but I've just loved it here. Always have loved it here. I've loved the space. I've loved the cleanness of the air. And even when I travelled down south once and looked around the Walpole-Margaret River area, I found it really claustrophobic down there in comparison to here. I just find the big space is really beautiful.
But it's stinking hot in the Kimberley. The flies, the dust. How did you cope with the hardships?
Oh, in the early days, I think I was just ignorant that I could have had a better life. I think I was just, I'm a fairly stubborn-natured person, so I think I was just sort of wanting to make the point of sticking here. I was going to do it.
You've got to be stubborn to survive in the Kimberley?
No. You don't have to be stubborn. No, you have to be, you have to not be able to give up, to keep taking the challenge, because there's always another challenge. You think you've won a little battle, but you haven't. It's only one little tiny battle amongst the wars that you've got in life.
How hard is it actually to live here?
You know, it's just like being on holiday every day here. There's a new thing to do, something different to do, and it's fun. I always think it's fun anyway. Maybe some people don't think it's fun.
It wouldn't be for everybody.
No, it wouldn't. But then some people go on holiday and they think of the holiday to be laying on a beach with a blue sea in front of them, and some people think of a holiday to go and do the cowboy Gillaroo show and do all that for 2 or 3 months, and they think that's a holiday. So it's not for everybody, but it is for me. It's been the right place for me.
You've raised a family in the Kimberley. How's
Yes.
that been?
There's been some tough moments, really tough. When we started school, and a couple of the boys had little problems with getting to grips with mainstreams, with just ordinary schooling, like reading and writing. That was tough. One of them was having difficulty even learning to speak, and he was only 2 years old. You didn't have your neighbours to talk to about it, or your friends, or the playgroup to talk to about it. So there was times when you could feel quite isolated in that.
Did you ever question the lifestyle?
Possibly not till they were older, and I questioned whether I'd done the right thing.
And why is that?
Oh, because we'd had a taste of a different side. When we moved to Brain for the children to do high school, and I questioned them whether we'd done the right thing for the kids. Whether maybe if we'd have exposed them to being able to do team sports at an earlier age and being able to involve themselves in community activities a little bit more than just a camp draft or a rodeo. Maybe then I considered I should have looked at doing some things differently. But then when I came home, I was so grateful that after I left Broome and came back to the station, I was so grateful that we had been able to give the boys this opportunity.
What's it been like as a woman living here?
Being a woman on a station, it can be quite lonely. And there were 2 core women that probably helped me through my time. And there's no neighbours here really as such as in a normal town setting. But one was a next door neighbour, and she was just marvellous. She would be here at the flick of a moment if she could, and yet she lived over 100 kilometres away to get here.
You mentioned loneliness before. Is that something that you've experienced, and how did you overcome it?
No, I've never experienced loneliness. I know that I should have been lonely. The times that I've had, the hardest times for me have been when my family have been ill and I haven't been able to travel to them. That's been the most hardest times. But as far as loneliness goes, I relish that they've all left the house and gone and left me on my own. I think that's wonderful to be here on my own.
And what does the Kimberley mean to you?
Home. Yes, it's home. I look around the garden and I don't need a photograph album. I can see the memories all around me. I look out on the paddock and I can see memories of where we've been at different times as well. So there's a new scenery all the time.
Can you see yourself living here to the end of your days?
I can't see any reason to leave until my end of the days, except that the end of my days, that just sounds rather... I don't think I'd want to be here at the age of 90, struggling with my health and the heat. I think at that stage maybe it's time to move to somewhere else. But where you'd go, I don't know. And where you'd go and still have friends. I don't know where you'd go.
At the end of the day, it's the people you choose to surround yourself with who make a place home. At first, the Kimberley may seem like a tough place to live. But the folk who choose to be here are pretty much just like the rest of us. Because despite the heat and the isolation, the simple truth is, home is where your heart is.